Hello and welcome to the Boost Over Ball podcast, your go-to place for everything Rocket League with your hosts, K-Cube, AJ Binky, and Red. So lean forward, lock in, and get ready to go Boost Over Ball.
Hello and welcome back to the Boost Over Ball podcast. To listeners new and old, hello. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Kyle, K-Cube, and today we will be talking with Jamesbot, tournament organizer, former player, caster for RLCS, Gamers 8, which is now Esports World Cup, and the FIFA E World Cup. This was an awesome conversation. Let's jump right in. We hope you enjoy. Thank you. I'm excited, and thank you again for taking the time.
Where's is the podcast on the whatever the Apple one is?
Yeah, it'll be Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, YouTube.
Nice, because I listen to I have Apple Podcasts, but
Yeah.
I'm not super I don't do a lot of podcasts. I only do just a couple, so
Fair.
I'm not familiar with many platforms. So that's why I asked, because Apple I can listen to. I know how to use that.
Fair.
I'm old.
Hey, I feel like every time I watch RLCS, I feel older and older. Especially watching like SSG and like former snowmen, and I'm like,
yeah.
And then you're like, JNaps is retiring. Well, shit.
I still remember JNaps when he came up at the Wiltern in season 3, and he was like, "Man, I want to do this so bad. I want to make these lands." So, and now look at him. He's retiring. He's got a major champion.
Yeah. Although
Pretty
it's funny, people have been like, some of my friends have been asking me, they're like, well, do you think he's gonna like coach or like do like a content team, kind of like how Gas like for Garrett and AJ did? And I was like, I mean, maybe I could see him coaching, but I could also just see him vanishing. Like,
yeah, I think a lot of people agree with that. He's like, now that he's done with Rocket League, he's just gonna find something else he's good at and just do that. That's my guess too. But we'll see. Who knows?
Yeah. But I guess the first question that I really want to ask is, how did you get into esports, like in general? I know that you competed in Rocket League as a player, but what was your first like foray into gaming and to esports in general?
All right, so are we live now, by the way?
Yes.
This is it? Okay. All right. Cool. So how I got into esports? Well, I was a gamer pretty much my whole life. My parents got our family a Sega Genesis for like, I can't remember which Christmas it was, but I was like 6 years old. And I mean, we had a Nintendo Entertainment System before, but it was just like Mario Duck Hunt. I was too young, I think, to appreciate those games. But I just got into gaming at a really young age, and my family, when they got that Sega Genesis, I played games like Rock and Roll Racing, which was a Blizzard game, Toe Jam and Earl, Lethal Enforcers. There were just a bunch of really great, like I could just name tons and tons of them. Like Street Fighter 2, that was on there. Zombies Ate My Neighbors. I just love playing games a ton. And so I'd always been a gamer. And then what really got me into esports though was when I was in 8th grade, my family just got broadband internet. Before that, we were on dial-up. And I got into Xbox Live. I think it was in December of 2002 that we got this. And I just started playing tons of games all day. Like as soon as I got home, I would get on Xbox Live and play games. Because back then it was mind-blowing that you could be on voice communications with somebody. Like up until then, it was cool just to be able to type to people in online lobbies, like playing Rainbow Six on the PC or whatever. But then like to actually have voice comms was incredible. So I got really into Xbox Live, started playing a lot of Halo. I played Halo 1 on Xbox Connect, and then I played Halo 2 a lot. And that's when I started competing in tournaments and like local tournaments and stuff. And so Halo is where I got my introduction into esports, started watching MLG. And at the time, one of the best players in the world on the best team in the world was from 15 minutes away. His name was David Walsh. He was called Walshy in Halo. And he was on a team called STK. And then they were Team 3D. They got sponsored and then eventually became Final Boss. And Final Boss, they were like legendary. Like still to this day, I hold like David Walsh is like my hero in esports. And so me and my friends would get together and watch MLG events online back in like 2006, 2007, 2008. We just loved it. I mean, it might have been even 2000. I don't even know if they were streaming it back in 2006 because I think that was like Halo 1.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like for a lot of people, it's either Halo or Call of Duty. I feel like most of the time people didn't like do both. So it's interesting for Halo. I also grew up playing Halo. I was never good enough to go to any tournaments, but it was definitely a phenomenal game and a great foray. And then so you started out playing Halo. When did you find Rocket League, and how did that game change the way that you like competed, I guess?
Yeah, so I guess I'll have to correct myself too. 2006 was definitely uh Halo 2. I'm just looking it up right now. I'm so old, the years just, you know, they seem to go on and on. Also, it's morning. But so basically, how did I get into Rocket League esports?
Yeah.
All right. So there's a long answer and a short answer on this one. I'll just go with the short answer. Short answer is my buddy who I used to compete in Halo tournaments against locally. His name was Z Cancer. He was on a really good, or he was a great FFA player, but we were on different teams. I'd always run into him in FFA tournament finals, and he'd always beat me, but my team would always beat him locally. And eventually, I bought a house, and this was, I bought a house and like made it a gamer house. And it was a 4-bedroom house. I rented out 3 other rooms. One of the guy, and then I put out a Facebook ad saying I'm looking for gamers to live in this house with me. And my buddy Cliff Z Cancer was the one who answered the call, one of them, and he got me into. This is the short answer, but he went pro in another game called Evolve. His dream was to work at a game developer as a character artist, but he ended up going pro in this game. Ended up getting hired for this company. I started helping commentate their streams for their game. It was a pretty small time stream. There was like 600 viewers, which at the time was a lot, for me in esports. I thought it was huge, but I just learned in the Evolve community how to run an esports broadcast, how to be an esports commentator, all that kind of stuff. So that when Rocket League came out, I hit the ground running. I paired up with Cloud Fuel. Like I played in one of Cloud Fuel's tournaments. Cloud Fuel is like the godfather of Rocket League esports. He was organizing tournaments before there was much out there. It was like Cloud Fuel's events, and then it was ESL. Yeah. And so I started helping Cloud Fuel with his events because he needed casters. And so because my experience with Evolve, I knew how everything worked from like a community esports broadcast perspective. And I just paired up with him. And then we paired up with some guys from Europe. One guy's name was Vice Gold, who ran rocket-league.com. He was a graphic designer and among one of many things. But also our friend Quest Ferret, who was the programmer, and us 4 were kind of the force behind the format and design and broadcast of the early Rocket League esports events. And then when Twitch partnered with Psyonix to run the official RLCS, Twitch had a lot of leeway in deciding how they were going to approach it. And the way Twitch decided to approach it was to hire almost all community people who were doing the game as a hobby for fun, because we knew it best and it was a new game that not a lot of people knew a lot about. So they just said, these are the people who know the most, we're going to hire them. And so that's how I got in.
It's awesome. I mean, I definitely feel like they could have gone a couple of different ways, but I'm glad that it worked out for you, and I'm glad that they hired the community members, because certainly the passion comes through on all the RLCS broadcasts. I think that's one of the reasons that a lot of people tune into the main broadcasts, especially here in North America, as opposed to like some of the watch parties. But that's awesome. I did not know that you were one of the pioneers of casting for RLCS. Well, I guess what would become RLCS.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I was mainly trying to become a player. Like it was my dream my whole life to be a pro gamer. My whole life was all I wanted to do was be a pro gamer. And so Rocket League was a unique opportunity to like be at the same starting point as everyone else. Cause the games I like to play, I wasn't playing them, since the very beginning. I guess you could say that Halo was probably the closest one. I found Halo 1 a little bit late. I found Halo 1 right before Halo 2 came out. But Rocket League was a situation where almost all of the people who were playing, minus a very select few, the SARP vets, everyone was starting at the same starting point, and everyone was trying to become the best. And so I loved that. I was like, whoa, I get to, if I can learn faster than them, I can rise up the ranks. And, I just loved that experience. And like being on me and my friend, Espeon and Digital had a contract offer to play under Orbit Gaming before season 1. But I also had an offer to commentate RLCS, and I took the RLCS one because it was way better option.
Yeah, because I know that you played in some of the ESL weeklies, some of the like Rocket Royales, RLC League, and then a few others. What I've heard people like Rizzo. I've heard a couple people talk very highly about the ESL weekly cups and things like that. What are your thoughts on ESL and some of those weekly tournaments that preceded
I
RLCS?
don't. I feel like ESL was like those ESL cups were so necessary. Like they were so fun. There were so many. Like that was the place to make a name for yourself. And I remember Kernovi streaming his ESL runs. You would get like 10,000 viewers or something crazy. It was just it was a time because like that's what everyone looked forward to. That was the pinnacle. Like aside from when Cloud Fuel eventually started doing the RLC Rocket Royales and the RLC Pro League and stuff. But up to that point or prior to that point, like if you wanted to be the best, you're playing in ESL. And there were hundreds of teams playing in these ESL tournaments. And so the competition was fantastic. And then also the system was actually quite fun. You would play in the weekly ESL Cups, and then the top 8 teams, based on your placements in the previous Cups, would determine who makes the ESL Monthly. And the ESL Monthly champion title was what everyone wanted to have. Like you would get titles for how you placed in the ESL Monthly tournaments. You'd get in-game titles. So it was a phenomenal time. I loved it. Those 8-hour ESL days, just playing Rocket League all day with your team. Honestly, some of the most fun I've had in the game.
That's awesome. So, I mean, I don't know if that necessarily would have been the catalyst or like the vision behind it, but a lot of people may know you from doing some tournament organization stuff, working with Rizzo, doing the draw, doing club dubs. How did those type of events kind of come about for you, and what's been your favorite part about organizing and casting those?
So events are great. I think my favorite event of all time that I ever did was Gold Rush 1. And we did Gold Rush 1 out of my 900 square foot apartment in Oakland. And that came about when Corelli was someone else I played in those ESL Cups and knew about. Corelli and Quinn Lobdell, who was also somebody that I knew about from playing in tournaments, they all lived in San Francisco. This was right when I accepted a job at Twitch. And so we had a pretty good group of guys out there. And then we recruited Furtive Raccoon, who was in the scene. He was kind of like our admin moderator kind of guy, just a jack of all trades. He ended up getting a job at Smash GG, which I think was a direct result of us doing those Gold Rush things because we used Smash GG, the compendium, to make the Gold Rush event happen. But I love doing events. I love making things. Even if you go back and you want to laugh, I have some old content from DDT, the Digital Dream Team. There's youtube.com/DDT Gaming US and then youtube.com/DDT Jamesbot. Just making super cringe. I just like projects where I'm making stuff. I just love to make stuff. I don't like showing up every day for a stream. Like I tried being a streamer. Don't like that. But I just love doing stuff with friends, and events are like a perfect way for me to scratch that itch, especially leveraging my position within the community as an analyst. And so I hope to do more of that as well, because I don't think it's any secret that esports as a whole is kind of going through a big bust or huge contraction, because over COVID there was a lot of cheap money flowing around and a lot of stupid money as well. And that caused things to expand, and now things are starting to shrink again. And so if you're just a commentator, things would be pretty tough. I mean, things are pretty tough. I'm not going to lie. So I'm trying to diversify what I spend my time on to continue to do things in esports, so I don't have to go get a normal 9 to 5, which I'm prepared to do. And who knows? It might have to happen in the next year or so. But I'm really hoping to continue to be able to make events successful. But that will depend on if I can figure out how to get sponsors, big enough sponsors to make it worth my time.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I know, like, it's been talked about the fact that a lot of orgs have pulled out of Rocket League. You don't see G2 anymore. You don't see, just to kind of highlight that. But it, especially during COVID, I mean, Guild was throwing money around like crazy. That's just kind of the one that sticks out to me the most. But um, what do you think? Like, do you think that the current RLCS format is sustainable in terms of, like, they've kind of scaled it back a little bit? It seems like they've, it seems to be more stable, but we're still waiting on, the org eShop or esports store in Rocket League and things like that. Do you think that's going to be the solution?
The solution, it's tough to say because the dynamic is a little bit challenging in a sense that the people who are operating the esports shop and doing all that kind of thing, that's Epic. The people who are operating the esport, that's Blast. What's good for Blast isn't necessarily good for Epic, and what's good for Epic isn't necessarily good for Blast. And the way it works for us is we are contracted by Blast. It's at the behest of Epic because Epic is the customer of Blast. So, if Epic tells Blast to do something, chances are Blast is going to do it. But there is some agency there for Blast. And because Blast is the one operating the esport, they have a lot of influence on how things are done. So obviously, I don't know what the contract looks like between Blast and Epic and that kind of thing. But it's tough to say, are we at a sustainable point? Because this is season 2. I think there was a press release. I can't remember how long the press release said it was, how long this deal was or whatever. I don't know if it even mentioned it. But regardless, it's possible that things just change year over year over year until the deal is over. And then they, maybe they don't come back, or maybe, next season they start to invest more because things go well this season. It's just tough to say because this season isn't even done, and who knows, like, I don't even know how much Blast relies on ticket sales and that sort of thing. But, if that's any indicator, World's sold out. So maybe we will get to see some type of sustainability or growth coming up, but it's so hard to say. Like, as a commentator, I feel like we a lot of times know less than players. So it's tough to be certain on that stuff. You, in this industry and in this job, you have to just be ready to roll with things. You got to, be on a 2 weeks notice, be able to pick up and travel to anywhere in the world. So, but I'm not complaining. I'm just saying this is how it is. And
Yeah.
I love the job and I love what I'm doing, and I hope I can continue to do it forever. But in terms of forecasting, it's just too tough to do. That's one of the downsides of the job, is the unpredictability and the uncertainty.
I mean, that makes sense to me. But transitioning a little bit into RLCS and some of the bigger events that you've been able to work, Esports World Cup, which is Gamers 8, Esports World Cup now, and then FIFA E. You've gotten to travel a lot for that, for RLCS. Do you have a favorite place that you've been to while casting?
My favorite place that I've been to while casting. That's a tough one. I've been to a few ones. Honestly, one of the best times I had was in a DreamHack event. We were at DreamHack Valencia. And then after commentating at DreamHack Valencia, me and my wife went to Barcelona. And that was a lot of fun. That was really, really great. We love Barcelona. We stayed in this, I think it's Las Ramblas is what it was called. But it was really cool. They just had tons of little shops everywhere, restaurants. And a lot of people will describe Barcelona. We heard a lot of people describe it to us as the California of Europe. The beaches and all that kind of stuff. Lots of tourism. It was great. It was cool going to see all the mega yachts in the harbors and stuff. So that was the one that sticks out to me most. But there are a lot of really great places, and great for different reasons. Amsterdam was really cool with just how with how that city is, with all the bikes and everything really accessible. And then the UK for high tea and all all that stuff, going and checking out me and my wife also stayed long and hung out in London. So it was cool. But I would probably say DreamHack Valencia takes the cake.
Okay, and that's a good point. You've casted at DreamHacks, you've casted at RLCS events. For people that maybe didn't watch or didn't follow the esport, then what was so different about the DreamHack circuit versus like RLCS?
Oh, so back in those days, the RLCS there was not a lot of it, right? You had the league play, and then you had the championships, which weren't a ton of teams, and like the league play was closed. You had rival series stuff where teams would have to promote, and so it left you always wanting more. RLCS, it was fantastic because it was the premium product for Rocket League esports. Everybody loved it, everybody wanted it, but because supply was limited and demand was high, it would when it was on, everyone thought it was the best thing ever. But because there wasn't enough, people wanted more, and the DreamHack Pro Circuit kind of filled that itch. And it also served the role of providing a platform for up and coming teams who aren't sponsored. A lot of people will remember the Peeps run, the Peeps taking down, I think it was G2 in Montreal, a moment that is etched into Rocket League esports history. That was a DreamHack Pro Circuit event, and that was great because those DreamHacks were opportunities for high-level Rocket League LAN gameplay, which people wanted to see, but at the same time gave that open avenue for those next-gen pros to come up. So it was a great time. It was a great time. Everything felt really organic. It felt like it was living off the actual demand. It wasn't inflated. But then, I think going through the pandemic, a lot of things just got wonky. But the DreamHack Pro Circuit times were amazing.
I've heard a lot of people talk fondly of them. I remember watching like Montreal and Leipzig, online, not going, but we had a RLCS LAN event at a DreamHack in San Diego, which was a little bit different. So, was that kind of like nostalgic being back at a DreamHack, or was it like so vastly different from what the DreamHack circuits had been?
I mean, it felt a little bit different because in the past RLCS finals, we would be at a venue or an event space that all that was happening was RLCS. So that was a unique situation in that there were a lot of people there who weren't there just for Rocket League. So it wasn't necessarily, I would say, an upgrade. I think it was just something that was different. Personally, I like the feeling of, we have an arena, everyone's is here to see Rocket League. I like that. I like that I can just go and I know everyone I'm surrounded by is here for Rocket League and I can talk to them about Rocket League. But also I know that doing anything in San Diego is probably wildly expensive, and that was probably the most cost-effective way to have a LAN happen in San Diego was to leverage the investments already made in making that DreamHack happen. So I appreciate it from a business standpoint, being smart. But I think in terms of the experience, I would much prefer having an arena.
I would too. It was so successful the first time they decided to do it twice. Dallas 2020, 2022 and 2024. You had the opportunity to be at and cast both of them. One with Blast, one without Blast. What were your experiences like casting the World Championships both times in Dallas?
So yeah, it was amazing. Any World Championship environment as a commentator, that's what you hang your hat on. I mean, most people will they would kill to just get one World Championship Grand Finals cast. And so, I mean, that's where the pressure is the most amplified as well. I'm someone who got into commentating mainly because I love the game, not because I like being on camera. So I definitely feel the pressure of the moments, but just like the players, I'm sure you have those nerves, but once you start going, things get a little bit easier. But commentating in a world championship in an arena like that, it is the peak of being an RL esports analyst. That's what you remember. and it's so special and so cool hearing the crowd go wild on crazy goals. And then also the aspect of you're just waiting to see if Rocket League history will be made, if there is something spectacular that's going to happen, because it's in those arenas, in those moments where the things that you'll never forget will happen. And so you just you live with that suspense, that anticipation all throughout the gameplay. And then on top of that, just physically being there with the crowd, but also hearing the alpha boost, the low thump of it, and like the booming of the ball. It's a special environment. It's the best environment that Rocket League can be in.
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly. Even if both grand finals in Dallas were kind of the same and kind of a letdown.
And BDS coming out on top.
Yeah.
G2
I mean,
losing.
They deserve to win. I think that they were the better team both times. I just, it's tough being an NA fan watching an EU team win again, but
That's why NA is going to win in Lyon, right?
Yeah, exactly. Just because it wouldn't work any other way.
Yeah, well, it's probably going to be France wins again, and France just says, "Listen, we own the game."
I mean, pretty much. But like, I still think back to probably my favorite series of the entire event for when 2022 was the Moist Furia series. I think that was the peak concurrent viewers on Twitch. It's the loudest of any event that I've ever been at, other than maybe like in Boston when we had that like 13-minute overtime with Vitality and what was Rule 1. But I think you're right. I think having the stadium, having the separate venue is like the pinnacle of RLE sports. Just that many people coming to show up to watch Rocket League. It's so it's almost like an addiction needing to go to those events, right? It's got to be different having to work them, but still, like, just being surrounded by that many people that are that passionate about the same thing that you are is something special.
Yeah, and I think it's just like the prestige factor. You want, if you're a player and you guys are competing to be the best in the world, you want the prestige to be there. And I think having those venues be all dedicated completely to Rocket League and everyone's there to see Rocket League, I think that lends to the prestige, which makes it just adds to the whole environment.
Yeah. So the last kind of thing that I want to ask about casting and stuff before I ask about some like actual RLCS gameplay stuff, you have a space that you've lent out to teams for boot camping for either for Worlds or boot camping for like an online regional event. Most notably, I believe G2 boot camped with you. 2 weeks ago?
NRG.
NRG.
They're NRG now,
Yeah,
but yes,
sorry.
the former G2 roster.
Yeah,
Yes.
NRG2. Yep.
Yes.
So, has that been a fun experience for you? Have you had any like funny moments or anything come out of that? And how does that come about for you to offer a place up for these teams to play?
Yeah. So, one, I like I was saying before, you have to in this business. I think it's all self-directed. So you're trying to figure out how can I continue to improve myself, or this is the way I think about it: is how can I continue to level up and become better and diversify my skills to where one, I can either keep making a living in esports, or two, if I'm out of esports, I have some compelling stuff on my resume to show what I'm capable of. And so doing events and boot camps and things like that, that's a way for me to expand my experience within esports. So for instance, those boot camps, I worked with Gen G before that. Gen G, my buddies Spaceman and Corelli, they do the team streams for Gen G. And so actually the first two regionals I hosted Gen G, and as part of that, like getting set up, I also I'm a hobbyist real estate person. Like I like to invest in small time real estate stuff. And so as part of this initiative this year, I actually moved some of my investments around to where I have an apartment right across the street from the studio. And so I have a system now where I can rent out the apartment. That's where they'll stay, and then they'll move over to the facility to play. And then my long-term goal is to be able to run events like Gold Rush, and people will stay in those apartments or in the apartment and it helps me save on hotel costs, and then I can run those events out of my studio. But in order to keep the doors open, though, I just need to keep, because it costs money to keep that studio open. It costs money to get those computers and everything. So I'm using boot camps as a way to help provide values to orgs, because I'm, pricing it where it's less expensive for a hotel than a hotel for them. And like, because even just the logistics of a boot camp can be annoying for an org. So, not only am I making it logistics easy for the org, but I'm also capturing media. So if you watch the Gen G team streams, or you've seen some of the pictures that Gen G's posted and stuff, me and my buddy Doyle captured all that media. And so it's just trying to be flexible, creative with how I'm able to keep those doors open so that I can achieve my long-term goal, which is to run really cool events and pull in big sponsors to be able to keep doing esports as a living.
That's awesome. I know that we the Gen G team stream was the space station stream, but it's a fan favorite. The media, the graphics, the creativity is incredible. So hats off to you for your role in that, and hats off to Crowley and Spaceman again for
they're the creative, they're a big creative force behind it. I love what they're doing. I think it's amazing. So, and Spaceman actually flew out as well those first two regionals to help us get all the content that we needed as well. So got to give him a shout out.
Fair. Yeah, I know that they like I imagine they probably took like the videos for like the Slotzarella and stuff like that at the boot camps.
Yeah, that was me and my buddy Doyle.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Yep. NA Kiss the Ring.
Yeah.
That like ridiculous family photo that of them with the championship where they're all like centered around Magic Bear.
Yeah, that's I think that people are starting to take notice of the popularity of that, and I hope that teams will start moving in that direction more and more. I think that it's awesome to have, like, even for a regional event, to have like the teams show up all in the same place and play. I know that we haven't really seen, at least in Rocket League, like a geocentric organization since V1. Like they had their their facility in Minneapolis, and they they wanted the players who were over 18 and were able to live in the complex adjacent to their facility, and they hosted all kinds of events in Minneapolis for people to come and watch, to do things like that. So having like a boot camp location, I think, makes it so that you kind of do have a geographic location, which I think maybe is something that RLCS is missing. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
I mean, I've never really been a big believer in like in mimicking traditional sports or regional things like that. But what I will say is I think there could be an entrepreneur or someone out there that can make that model work that we haven't seen yet. So I won't I won't rule it out, so to speak. But
Well, I mean, maybe not necessarily like solo staying in one spot, but like, if, for I'll use Gen G as an example, right? So Gen G's gonna boot camp and do their regional with you and at your location, and so Gen G, the org, says, you know what, let's do a watch party somewhere nearby, right? Because the people the guys will be there. Maybe they show up afterwards, or something like that, similar to how like they do like a meet and greet at RLCS events. Like, I just think it's an opportunity to do like brand activations and like sponsors.
Oh, I agree.
Stuff like that.
I 100% agree. And we did that for NRG. So if you go check out the last NRG stream on NRGGG, we broadcasted mission control out of my studio, and I actually invested in some more equipment. So if you see me do more event stuff soon, it'll probably look a lot like that stream did. But that I do hope happens. But right now, the things that would allow that to happen is if a Gen G or if a NRG sell a big partnership. So we've seen it before with NRG, where they were the general NRG. We've seen it with G2, where they were G2 Stride, right? Where they have these big partners. Or if you've watched Mission Control, you would have seen that we had Carvana as a sponsor, and there was also Panda Express. So in order to do things like that, a lot of times what will facilitate that, or the necessity of the situation, is that you have a sponsor like that. And right now, a lot of orgs are struggling to find those sponsors. It's because as a whole, it seems like the economy is just hurting as a whole. There's a lot less companies that are willing to spend money on advertisement and stuff. And so that's definitely being felt in esports, which I think is an industry that experiences whiplash back and forth pretty heavily. So the general economic instability makes things even crazier in esports. So I hope that one day that we can have that. I would love to work with an NRG or a Gen G where maybe they sign me, and on the way they when they sign me, they get access to all that I have and like have rights to sell my events, and you know I will put the team up for boot camps as part of what I do, and do the team streams and cast as part of what I do. I would love to bring that kind of stability, because right now the way life looks for me is I sell everything a la carte. So if I do something, it's like, yeah, I'll write up the agreement for this one specific thing. This is how much this one specific thing's going to cost. This is how much these are the days this one specific thing's going to be. And then these things kind of happen with 2 to 4 weeks lead time. So when I'm trying to plan my year, I just can't.
Right.
I would love to sign a 2-year-long deal with one of these groups to be able to provide that value to an org, because I agree with you. Like, I think what Gen G is doing is the way that people will make money long term, is you develop a culture around the org, around the team. You have a lot of, like, you leverage that into the content outside of it. You monetize the content. The content also gets more potential impressions for sponsors, and then you have a lot more compelling of a case to make those sales to the Panda Expresses, to the Asus Rogs, to the Acers or the Red Bulls or the whatever it may be.
Yeah.
I think that is definitely what, if I was an esports org owner, that's where I would be trying to look.
Yeah, and I mean it's interesting too because like with like the amount of turnover that happens, like, and I'm just going to use Rocket League, as the basis of this point, right? But like how quickly teams change, how quickly orgs move players around, even move orgs around, right? Just acquiring new rosters and things like that. You almost have to have like your brand be separate from the players. But like most RLCS fans, I feel like are fans of the players first. I'm sure there are some diehard org fans, but like,
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think NRG is a unique example in that there are a lot of people that follow NRG in general, because NRG has multiple teams.
yeah,
So I think NRG maybe more like, and also I will say this: I think the French orgs are also not necessarily the same. I think being on K Corp or being on Vitality or BDS or whatever it may be, like, there's a lot of French people who follow the orgs because the creators have the orgs.
yeah, but that's like stability though, right? So like, I mean,
Yeah, which I think is great. Like, I think that's amazing. But
I think so too.
I also agree with what you're saying though, in North America specifically, and maybe in some of these other regions, it's the players, the fanfare will follow the players for sure.
Except I think at least what in my opinion, right, with Spaceman and Corelli and the Gen G, it was the SSG stream, now the Gen G stream, or the
It was the
Luminosity
LG stream, by the
Yeah,
way.
no, I keep saying SSG. I have no idea
Yeah,
why. I have no idea why I keep doing that. Maybe
there's a
because-
lot of G's.
Yeah, there is.
LG, SSG,
Gen G.
NRG, G2, Gen G. What's with and all these esports websites are .gg too. It's like, what is up with G?
I don't know.
A lot of G's.
But the LG stream and now the Gen G stream, I think that they've pulled in a lot of fans who, maybe aren't necessarily the biggest RMC fans, but they're Spaceman and Corelli fans. They love the stream. They love the uniqueness and how different it is than most. I think that they've started to build their brand separate from the players, right? Like they build it in with Captain America, with Slotzarello, with, with everything that they've done with the players themselves, because they, build such a good rapport. But I think given the same liberties, I think they could have similar success with other teams as well if they need
And
to.
I will give a lot of credit too to Gen G signing the RMC squad, and the RMC squad making the major in spectacular Rocket League historical fashion. Like, one of the best things. I mean, that was one of the greatest RLCS regional weekends we've ever. You might even say it was the greatest, with GK's run and then Gen G's run.
Maybe the greatest 2 weeks in regionals ever.
Yeah, Yes, I would. It was fantastic, and also on top of that, they did invest in like making the boot camps happen and doing all that stuff. So I have a lot of respect for Gen G as an org. I think they're one of the greats. Like I love having them around in North America, and like bringing on Spaceman and Corelli as well to do that. And then also I think, I don't know if you're aware of this as well, but there's two people at Gen G that I've dealt with that I know are super knowledgeable about Rocket League. One is Aleutian, former pro.
Yep.
He's out there doing stuff for Gen G, and then also J-Bob, who is a former CRL competitor. He's also out there at Gen G. So I think a lot of the smart decisions that you see out of them is due to the fact they have people in their company that know the scene and are really well informed and smart people. And so I appreciate having them around. I think what Gen G's participation in this year of Rocket League has made NA Rocket League so much better.
I think so too. And even just, and I don't mean to throw shade, but like it kind of happens. But like this new iteration of Gen G, they're making more content. Reddles makes his own content, which is good for the org as well. The people that were on Gen G before, not including Appjack, because Appjack has always kind of done his own content and his own thing, but you know, some of the other iterations of Gen G would not have been okay with the team stream, would not have been okay with the content that's being made.
Well, yeah, maybe. I'm not sure I would go so far as to say that, but what I would agree with you on is that, you don't see First Killer and Chronic making a ton of content all the time, like on YouTube and stuff. Although I would say in this last off season, I did see a lot more First Killer streams. I think it's a pattern that you see with almost every pro. There's just a few pros that are the exception, like the Reddles, the apparently Jacks. Most pros want to just focus on playing the game.
Yeah.
They just want to focus on playing the game because it's the easiest thing, and being a pro is tough. It takes a lot of time, and also doing content takes a lot of discipline. And I think a lot of players, when you are a pro esports athlete, especially like from what I've seen in Rocket League, you have so much flexibility and freedom that you can get away with only doing what you want almost all the time. And doing content requires a level of commitment and discipline that is tough to do, like for anyone. Like, and so you have these players who don't really have to make content, right? In order for them to make content, they have to be really forward thinking or really motivated or just love it, like Rizzo making content. But it's just, I think a lot of pros will just, they're making great money with prize money. They're making great salary money. They don't have to do it. And so when you don't have to do something, a lot of times for anyone in any walk of life, it just won't get done. And it's hard. Like I've tried making content as well. It's hard. So it's not easy. But I think the players who are really, really smart and have a really clear vision of what they want to do with their life realize that you have to capitalize on your time in the limelight to get your machine up and running so that when the gravy train stops, that you can just hop on the train you made to keep on chugging down the esports tracks.
Right.
So because you've seen it many times where a player is contracted, they're pro, and then the next season they retired. I think, the names that come to the top of my mind are players like Nolly, players like Mist, Sipical. Sipical is an interesting one because I think he probably could have got a contract offer, but he just disappeared. But even a lot of these retirements, like the J-Naps, the Garretts, and Squishy, I would argue that a lot of that is due to the drying up of pro contracts as well. I think a lot of people wouldn't retire if there were a lot of opportunities to play pro out there. So when you're just getting back to the point, if as soon as you run into that situation where you don't have a potential contract lined up, if you get there and you haven't built your content empire, it's too late. And most of the time, you could probably still grind your way back, but it's going to be 10 times harder. I think the perfect example is Kronovi. Kronovi had so much time in the limelight that he could have built a massive content empire, but he didn't. And he's still got a good stream and a good community. I'm not crapping on Kronovi at all. I love the guy. I think he's amazing, and I think he would tell you this as well. I think he would tell you this same thing as well. If you want to make the most out of your time as a pro and you want to stay in esports and do that, you have to have that content strategy, because that is your exit ramp to be able to keep doing esports and make a living.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me. And, certainly it seems like, apparently Jack has built his platform, Reynolds has built his platform. So
Squishy Muffins,
yes.
I think is a fantastic example.
Yeah, I think he might be the premier example.
And my premier example before probably would have been Rizzo, but Rizzo, he stopped playing Rocket League, so it doesn't work as much anymore. So I would agree with you. I think Squishy, great example. K-Dop, another fantastic example. Maybe the best example, honestly. I wish I spoke French. Like I do have a friend that I used to work at Twitch at. He was his name's Robin. He speaks French and he tells me K-Dop's hilarious. And like he watches K-Dop stream all the time. K-Dop is a great example. And he's still going. He's like still competing and still making content. K-Dop's probably number one.
I mean, K-Dop may be one of the singular most reasons that French Rocket League is so popular.
Yeah, I think K-Dop, I wish I spoke French and was part of the French subculture more. He might be the single most impactful person on Rocket League esports culture in the world.
I don't even know if that's a debate. Like, I think it's like that's
it might not be.
Like, I don't think any one person has done more for Rocket League esports than K-Dop has done.
Yeah, he's a legend.
But
he's an example of how to do it the best.
Yeah, and he's even done some English, or tried to do some English streams too, which
he's going to take over the world if that's the case.
Yeah. He's tweeted about it, like, and like you have to translate the tweets because, again, I also wish I spoke French but don't. But he said, he's nervous to do it because it's not his first language. I'm like, that's probably like his third or fourth language. Like,
yeah, right. It's like he doesn't need to learn English.
No,
he's so successful with French only. But I think that's just a perfect example of the type of person that K-Dop is always thinking about how to step up, how to improve.
But the last transition before we finish off for this episode, but you talked about it and I wanted to hear your opinions. Maybe we said maybe the greatest 2 weeks of regional events in RLCS history. What are your thoughts on, let's do the GK run first, and like for the first time, like needing to win to make the major and then it happening?
I mean, we've seen it in the past in Rocket League, and it just feels like it's always impossible, especially with this season in Europe. It looked like K Corp was literally unbeatable, and to see them actually do it was crazy. Also, I will say, I didn't get to watch it as closely as I normally watch because me, my wife, and my son were in St. Thomas, which is in the U.S. Virgin Islands, for a wedding for our in-laws. So my wife's cousin was getting married. We went out there for that. So I was watching the end of the run on my phone from a mountaintop restaurant in St. Thomas.
That doesn't suck.
I mean, the view was great, but imagine like the view. You have the most spectacular view ever. You look at me and I'm watching Rocket League on my phone. But it was one of those moments like I couldn't miss it.
Yeah, no.
But go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, just like for them to win is, first off, the storyline is
crazy,
impeccable, but to win the way that they won is
they didn't lose a game on Championship Sunday.
They won their last 13 games.
Yeah, that alone was insane. But then there was a lot of talk about what are the odds of that happening, and also Gen G making it on their own weekends. I never would have thought either one of them would happen. So for both of Gen G and GK to win and in, that's why it's the greatest. Like, I don't know if we'll ever see anything like that ever again. That was absolutely mind blowing. But also, I will say that I love Joyo in particular. as just a player.
He's just such a
I've gotten to
wholesome human. It's so hard to
He's
root
super
against
nice. Yeah.
Joyo.
Yeah, he's really nice. All the interactions I've had with him, especially like back in, gosh, I think it was the first World Championship in Dallas, going to play at Top Golf with him, and I think it was Team Queso at the time, and then maybe it was Moise. Dude, I'm so old. My memory's going, but
I've been saying
got to go
SSG
out
all
and
day.
yeah, we went to Top Golf and played golf with them and the Pioneers, which was like Banana Head and Scrub and so anyway, I think it was Super Lackey at the time. I can't remember. Again, I'd have to look
I think it
at
was.
Wikipedia. But Joyo was the worst golfer I've ever seen, but he was so fun to be around. And I've gotten to hang out with him a couple times at Worlds, and really nice guy. So genuine, and so to see him get that success was freaking awesome. He's one of those people like Garrett G, where you just can't help but love them as a player, and so to see him succeed was just and especially in the way that he did, so cool.
Yeah, no kidding. And then moving back across the pond to NA. And I have to give Hercules props. We just talked to her, and I was on she was doing a watch party on Friday, and she's like, 9 Lives loses, Shopify loses, and she said, well, the copium for Gen G fans is there. Like it's not likely, but it's there. Don't hate, and everyone, no way they do it. Like they've
well, people didn't want to believe. People don't want to have hope because like you see, if you go back and do an analysis of all the Reddit comments out there of just the people who are Reddles fans, Gen G fans, just saying, I can't do it. I've been trusting the system for so long. When's the system going to work? Like, blah, 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 blah. People didn't want to believe. People didn't want to hope because once you start, you can't stop and you don't want to be disappointed.
Yeah.
And to see him do that, yeah. That was
like I've seen all those comments. It reminds me of like the Philadelphia, like the 76ers, like trust the process. It's like, oh, but when does it when does it
like,
end?
when will it pay off? All we're doing is losing.
And
make a roster change. This team is not even top 8.
Yeah.
Those comments.
And like I give so much credit to the team because like Cheese was kicked. Like
yeah, and he came back.
And Magic Bear was almost kicked at 1.2, and it's like, and then they came back, and to find the success, like I'm so happy for them. Like that.
I'll also say that if you've listened to all their interviews, you would know this as well. I'm not saying, and then this is like a general you, not you specifically, just people listening. If you listen to the interviews that they give, Gen G has a big operation, and they are the most professional team that I've ever seen in terms of the way they work, because they have Greg behind the scenes. Thunda, their sub, shows up to every practice, and they also have Kevpert on there as an analyst. All of them are always trying to do everything they can to make the team win. I'm not going to give away any secrets. I've seen what Kevpert and Greg do, but this team, they all put in the work, and the players have bought into the system as well. So everything that Greg and Kevpert are bringing to the table, like they're sitting down with the players one-on-one, going over stuff. The team is together going over stuff. I have never seen a team take a more serious and a more professional approach to winning at Rocket League. And it's awesome to see that actually pay off and convert into a major appearance.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard from a few people, and from the interviews that you've seen, it certainly looks like they are, they're handling it professionally. Like this is their job, right? Like they, and they're doing content on the side.
They're giving it their all.
Yeah.
They're giving it their all.
For sure. So I'm so happy to see the newly dubbed Captain America find success.
Yeah, I'm not sure I can get on that bandwagon yet. I think Reddles deserves his own unique nickname. I'll talk with Corelli and Spaceman about this, because being from NRG, Garrett G is my captain. He will always be my captain. He will be the only captain.
He's still making main events. Like, I mean,
yeah, he was playing the main. So if you go and look at the NRG Mission Control, he was playing the main event in the main room right behind me and Daz as NRG was playing, and they were in the same side of the bracket as well, which was pretty hilarious.
I mean, he's a part owner, is he not?
Yes, he is a co-owner in NRG. He has
Yeah.
stock in the company.
Yeah, and I mean, he's even helping the second coming of whatever new nickname Reddles is gonna get. Right? He takes down Shopify, and in
That was crazy.
that was crazy.
He beats Justin. Squishy and Garrett beat Justin on. You can't make that up. It
No.
was a crazy weekend.
It was indeed. But if I had to put you on the spot, if you're picking somebody to win Major 1, who are you picking?
You have to say K Corp.
Yeah, you do.
I feel like if you're gonna ask me something like that, you got to say besides K Corp.
Well, hey, I mean,
who is most likely going to win?
I would agree that it's probably K Corp, but I mean, it certainly looked like somebody set the blueprint up for beating K Corp.
Yep, but I think it's going to be different on land. I think my top 3 teams would be K Corp, Falcons, or NRG. Those are the 3 teams. I think the winner will be one of those 3 personally. And we've seen crazy stuff before, like Gentlemaids. They went out and won. I think it was Copenhagen.
Yep.
No one expected them to really win. So I'm not saying that we won't see any upsets, but that's in my opinion one of those 3 teams.
Yeah, it certainly seems to be that's the consensus top 3, in whatever order that you have them in, right?
Yeah.
Most people
especially now that the Falcons team won FIFA E. I think they kind of had a grand finals curse. If you go watch the Falcons play, Team Falcons, prior to grand finals, they looked unstoppable. They looked like they were playing the most precise, fastest Rocket League anyone's ever played, but then they would crumble in the grand finals. And now that they've got that grand finals win, I think that we might see an era where they are the favorites to win most events, personally.
Yeah, I mean,
we'll see if it translates to RLCS.
They're just so dominant. Like, even they lost one regional, but everybody has an off day, like K Corp. But I would agree.
Who didn't lose one regional?
Yeah. But nevertheless, I think that K Corp probably is still the number one choice. But hopefully, for the sake of Rocket League, I think it would be awesome to see I don't know, you can't really call MENA a minor region, but like a non.
I like to call them expansion regions.
Yeah.
Because I agree with you. They're definitely not minor, but they weren't here when we started. So What do you call them? I like to call them expansion regions.
Because I've heard the expansion is a good one. Because like emerging, I don't know if you can call them emerging anymore if they're a top 3 team in the world. But like we shall see what happens. I can't wait.
Yeah, they're one of the non-original region. It's like when you think about hockey, when you had the original 6 or whatever. Then you have expansion teams. I think that we will see probably Team Falcons break that or make that history. That's I think my best guess. We have a lot of people were hoping it would be Furia, but I think it'll be Falcons.
I think so too. But I'm also intrigued to see what Secret can do. This is I think this is Swift's first LAN, I believe.
I mean, I won't fight you on it.
But I think Sam is I don't know if underrated is the right word, but like people like underestimate what Sam can do. So I will be interested to see, just like everyone else, what happens. But I think that you are correct about Falcons. I think that they.
I think that's the consensus right now, for sure. Maybe aside from people like Jorby, who are clearly biased towards South America.
Yeah, and I think that maybe we could start to see APAC come into that. I don't know if you saw, but they had a Rocket League LAN event this past weekend, and they had 140,000 people in attendance.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to talk to my little brother about that, because my little brother lives in Japan. He's fluent in Japanese, and maybe I should go and start organizing events over there.
It might be worth it. Kinatrope, the highest ranking all APAC team, they were watch partying their qualifier run with like almost 30K viewers.
Yeah, that's incredible to see, because in the past Japan was like a lot of people were like, there's nothing going on. And so I think that goes to show you the power of content creators.
Yeah.
And like, I think for Epic, I'm sure they're seeing this and seeing that, okay, these content creator orgs are way more impactful than anything else.
Well, because supposedly, like, that's how it started. Like, a content creator ran a big Rocket League tournament, and Realize was one of the captains, and now Realize is averaging like 20K viewers a stream too.
Oh my gosh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, so he like captained one of the teams in this like content creator tournament, and now he like his average views have skyrocketed, and he's on Kinotrope, so that's like probably where like the rest of the fans kind of like migrated to watch that. But like, I mean, 20K it was like, I think it was like 19K viewers for an open qualifier run. That's insane.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But that's kind of all the questions I have. But before we finish up, you know, let's roll out the red carpet. What do you have going on? What social medias or anything do you want to plug? I'll put any links that you say in the episode description so people can follow you there. But how can people find your content and support you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the best thing would just be follow me on Twitter, which is just, or X or whatever you want to call it. It's x.com/go. I'll usually announce anything that I'm doing on there. I'm hoping to do more events this year. I've actually been designing an event. I have a brand already ready to go. I have a merch line already designed. I have the graphics package already designed. My next step is, I even actually have some of the prize pool already funded. My next step is to, like, I think strategically, I really want to fill the void that has been left by Beyond the Summit by leveraging my studio to have really fun in-person events. So I've got that coming down the pipeline. Hopefully that works out. If not, you know, if anyone is hiring out there, let me know what your email is. I'll send you my resume, and, you know, good.
Fair.
I might need a job after this year. Who knows?
Yeah. Okay. And then the last thing I'll kind of leave you with on this one is, this is the Boost Over Ball podcast. So as such, I would like to know your opinions on when is the best time to go boost over ball.
The best time to go boost over ball is when you got a pro on your team. Let them handle it when you're getting boosted.
That is a fantastic answer.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. And everyone, please go make sure to follow Jamesbot on Twitter. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. We'd like to please remind you to rate us 5 stars wherever you listen to podcasts, share the show, tell a friend. It all helps us grow our audience and improve the show. Remember to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, TikTok, and Twitch, and come join our Discord. Make sure to support us by checking out our merch store and our Patreon, as this is how we will be funding the show and doing giveaways in the future. All of these links and more can be found on our website at boostoverball.com. And from us here on the show, as always, remember to choose Boost over Ball. See ya.
Thanks for listening to the Boost Over Ball podcast. Make sure to check out our website at boostoverball.com.